Hello, everybody. It's Bianca. I am Bianca. I'm Calista's mother. I just wanted to give you an update of her journey and continuing on with her recovery from her surgery. First, I want to apologize. I know it's been almost a month since my last video update, but as you can see, we are still in the hospital. Before I get to it, I just want to show you Calista, and you can see like what's different about her, and then we can get into it. So yeah, that's Calista. She's asleep. She just had a moment, she was eating, and then I guess she got too much food, so she started vomiting, and it was an experience, to say the least. So let's get into it. The update. As you can see, what's different about her is she now has a tracheostomy. Let me do a basic recap. We came here for a jaw distraction because Calista has PRS sequence. The jaw distraction is an operation where it kind of moves your jaw forward and create new bone so that her airway can expand and she could better breathe on her own. However, after the surgery, because she had a cold, no one knew she had a cold. There was no signs or symptoms stating that. She must have been just getting it, and before the signs could show, we didn't know. I cannot sit and think about that, and because it will mess me up. It did mess me up, but we're moving on. My therapist said move forward, so I'm moving forward. So she caught pneumonia 3 times back to back to back. Well, actually 4 times back to back to back to back. With all those illnesses that she kept getting, each pneumonia created more secretions. The secretions began to be too much for her to handle, and her lungs started drowning in her secretions, and it was determined that she needed a tracheostomy to survive, or without it she would not make it. How I felt about that, I did not want her to get a trach. I tried to fight against it with every doctor that I possibly could. I spoke to her ENT, I spoke to her plastics, I spoke to the head doctor, in the ICU. I tried against it, and I even asked them, I said, if this was your child, what would you do? Because I was terrified of the thought of my daughter having a tracheostomy. But as soon as they told me that her life depended on it, it was a no-brainer. Of course, I approved for them to do it. So what started out as a surgery that was supposed to help make her better, not saying that this surgery will do this to your child or another child in the future who will get a jaw distraction. Again, this is Calista's journey. Every PRS sequence child is different. So what happened to her wouldn't necessarily happen to the next kid. But for her, what started out as something that was supposed to help make her better ended up having some complications, not from the surgery at all by any means, but from, being sick and being in the hospital, being exposed to the intubations for so long. What I'm struggling with now, what I was struggling with was first accepting that she needed a trach. Second, getting over my fear of the trach, because I was terrified. I couldn't even look at it. I'm sorry. What a tracheostomy is basically, it's like an airway, like a tube that kind of helps you breathe through your neck instead of your nose and mouth. So with her having a trach in her neck, she can't breathe from her mouth and her nose at all. Like, there's no oxygen going in this area. Sometimes, if your child has a kid with a tracheostomy, if there are two different types of trachs. There's a trach with the balloon, and there's a trach without it. If your child has a trach with a balloon, sometimes it will block the vocal cord or a push on the vocal cord, and because there's no air going through your mouth or nose, there's no oxygen going to your vocal cords. Without oxygen going to your vocal cords, then you can't use your voice. That was one of the things I didn't like about her having a trach, was that, like right now, she had a cuff when she first got it, but right now she doesn't have a cuff, but I still cannot hear her voice. Like, I can't hear sounds. The sound you're hearing in the background is the mucus. Like, she has so much mucus still inside of her chest that's how she sounds now. There's no voice. When she cries, there's no sound. So I wasn't pleased with that aspect of a trach. But I just want to describe what a trach was. So it's basically like a nose. That's how the doctors call it. They call it a nose, where she breathes through here instead of through here. And with the trach, you have to do a lot of suctioning, which is like, I have to take a small little tube and put it inside of the trach, and it has a suction machine attached to it, and it helps sucks up all the mucus, but she needs a lot of suctioning, as you can hear. But her oxygen level is fine. The things I struggled with was, again, accepting that she needed a trach, learning how to take care of the trach, but then also realizing that her quality of life is totally different than it was before she came into this hospital for this surgery. Now she needs a special bed, she needs a special chair, she needs a special stroller. Now we need to make space for machines, equipment at the house now, which she didn't need before. She has a G-tube, so she feeds through her belly. She has a feeding tube and a machine for that, but now she also needs a machine for suctioning. She also needs a machine for oxygen. She also needs a machine for to humidify the air. She's on room air now, but the thing that she's attached to helps humidify the air a little bit, so it's going to be a big adjustment for her.